I met Brian in the mid to late 90s when he was like a kid, and he was getting into flat picking, and a musical mutual friend of ours brought him out to my house, and we played music together some, and he talked about wanting to build, and he was apprenticing with a mandolin builder.
Yeah, so Randall and I have been doing this together for a long time now. I mean, I first met him when I was like 15, 16 in high school, and I'd go sit on his front porch. Back then, he was an adult to me. We'd play music together, and then yeah, I guess it was probably I was 18 or 19 when we reconnected again, and I'd been building mandolins and violins, which did not make sense because I played neither of them. And Randall had been building the guitars, and joining forces with him was seemed like the right path for me, because I actually play guitar.
I built my first guitar in 1990. Got my first guitar when I was a kid in like 1970. Kind of like Brian was saying, I just loved playing the guitar, played it all the time. College, and I played a guitar 10 hours a day. You can't play it enough. So out of college, was playing the guitar a lot and wanted another guitar. Couldn't afford another one, and started tinkering with my guitar and replacing pick guards, tuners, things like that, and started to just really be interested in building a guitar and wanting to just listen to the voices in my head, I guess. So read all I could. This was, like I said, 1990, so it was pre-internet. So still a lot more available information than the previous generation, the guys in the 70s and stuff. I just bought some parts here and there and built a really bad guitar over the course of the year, but I liked it a lot. I played it. You don't want to invest in a bunch of really expensive tools on your first couple of guitars. You don't know if you'll ever do it again. So I routed the channels for binding by hand with like a hand tool and chisels, just ridiculous, inefficient stuff, but just got bit by the bug and wanted to keep on building. So started building more, 2 or 3 a year, starting to get a little better at it, starting to get some local orders, and doing it part-time, 3, 4 a year or so. And I'd built about 20 guitars like that when I met Brian through a mutual musician friend, and like he said, he'd been apprenticing and learning how to do things too, and I was actually getting a little behind. I said, hey, you want to help me out on this guitar? And I think he did a neck and a little bit of inlay on it, and we liked working together. And I always joked that Brian was too young and stupid at the time to know you're not supposed to be able to do it for a living. And he's like, hey, I think we can really do this. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I'm going to take these to some festivals. And so I was skeptical, but I mean, it would have been a dream come true to build guitars at the time. But still, I was like, okay, yeah, right. And the next thing I knew, within like the first year, we had over a year's worth of orders.
Back then, I wouldn't even know where to look around. There was no internet. I wasn't thinking about business or market in the early days. It was something I wanted to do, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. One more sweat.
I had hit on, and we'd hit on our bracing pattern and everything. It's like so many people were just building copies of D28s, and I had gotten exposed to some really cool like Gibson J35s from around 1940 and liked that a lot too. So our scale length is in between Martins and Gibsons. The angle of our X brace is more like a lot of Gibsons. Medium-sized maple bridge plate, not a big rosewood one, but nothing too tiny either. Just a lot of in-between compromises that we liked that kind of made our guitars sound like our guitars.
We're starting to use aspects of technology to help us, but we feel like keeping to the old school technology because it definitely adds to the the outcome of our final guitar. I mean, back in the old days, I would cut out a logo of a guitar with a jeweler saw, and it'd take me about 4 hours to cut out the Rockbridge out of pearl and get it inlaid. And now we can buy those CNC cutout for like $6, $7, and so it makes sense. And so that's an example of a time where technology to us works and doesn't take away from what we feel is us kind of putting our love into these instruments, but stuff like carving the braces and just all the fine detail of the aesthetics, we definitely like the old school method. There's just something about it that if we were to change that and either get machines or get a bunch of people in here that didn't care about guitars to do one part over and over again, it just seems like we'd be losing something. It's sort of one of those things you can't really put a finger on or put into words.
So they've been teaching me from the ground up. I think they wanted somebody in here that they could get along with in the shop, which is probably debatable at this point, but and somebody that was going to commit and really want to learn the craft. The first time I do something, it has to be as good as they do it, or else it can't go on a guitar. Brian puts the box together, and then I take it and just get all the thickness sanding scratches out and get it down to 220, get the binding flush, get it ready for the finish room. You just don't think about how every step leading up to it, from when it's milled to it gets to this point, just how every step has to be just right, and to get those two things to line up, and then they never line up. So just the nuances that you have to get everything just so.
We wear many hats, and that's really important, that we can all do all the parts of the guitar. We don't want somebody to look at a guitar and say, oh, Brian put the binding on this one, I have a McNeil binding. We want to be consistent, workmanship wise between the four of us, so that all our guitars, we can stand behind them, and they all come out the same.
We switch around a good bit. I'm mostly on the start of the guitars and the finish part, so I'll bend sides and join tops and backs and do a lot of the binding and aesthetic work. The material costs are shocking. The really nice wood is very expensive, and just all the different pieces that go into making a guitar, it's very surprising. The thickness that you take the wood to, how slim it is, and was also very surprising and terrifying when I first started building guitars. I grew up restoring antique furniture with my father, so that's where I learned how to work with wood, and turned out the two skills were very related, detail orientation wise.
We've come across a sound and a feel and an aesthetic that works, and we're not out there chasing tone and changing the braces on every guitar to try and make it better, because better for one person is worse for another. We found something that we like. They're the guitars that we would want to play, and fortunately there's enough people out there that think the same thing, that we're able to sit down here in the shop together and do this every day.
I just feel so lucky that I can do it. I never take it for granted. It's just like a dream come true. And it is a lifestyle. We're all passionate about guitars. I love playing a guitar and reading about guitars. On the weekend, if I'm not working, I'm reading about guitars or reading guitar magazines. And it also is kind of a lifestyle, because a lot of times you got to head out to the shop at 5 in the afternoon on Saturday to keep a finish going or fix something. So lifestyle is a good word for it.
You build a guitar, you form a relationship with the customers. I mean, even the ones I don't meet, it's like 100 emails, or I'm talking to them on the phone, and I know what they like. And I've become good friends with a lot of our customers. So ideally, they come to the shop. It's nice to see them open up the case and be happy with what we've done. We're building these instruments, and they're each going to have their own little story, and a lot of music's going to be played on them.